In this episode, we get angry. This is Tiny Leaps, Big Changes. Now, before I start today's show, I want to give a content warning. I am going to be discussing the recent vote on abortion rights. I'm going to be cursing. And so if you are listening to this and you either don't want to hear that type of content, or you are listening with kids and you don't want them to hear the cursing, completely understand. There's 800 something other episodes on here you can go listen to. So that part of this is done. I was not going to actually talk about this for many reasons. Chief amongst them is this is not a political podcast. And so I tend to avoid topics that become political. And of course, I sort of have to dive into it from time to time because politics is law in many cases, and law affects our ability to improve our lives and our situations. But even I believe it was last summer, or maybe it was the summer of 2020, when Black Lives Matter was protesting more often, I didn't really talk about it. And that was purposeful. However, I was sitting down. I had a totally different episode planned for today. I was going to do an episode on life design and how to design the life that you want, how to create the plan and figure out what it is you want to do, and so on and so forth. I was going to do that episode, and I was sitting down in my apartment thinking through each of the different talking points and my views on things, and it suddenly struck me that this entire thing is bullshit. Like, all of it. Like, every single thing related to life design is bullshit when you are dealing with a world and with a country that is willing to strip people's rights away. Now, what I mean by this, if it's not already clear, which I think for most of you it is, let's take an actual example. Let's say you're in your early 20s. You and your partner are together and you are just trying to get your life figured out. You maybe have some goals about where you want to take it, what you want to do in your career, what you want to do in your life, where you want to go. You have these ideas and these plans. And for the sake of this theoretical argument, let's say that between you and your partner, one of you is able to bear a child. What happens if you get pregnant? Now, in a previous version of the world, that wouldn't be the end of your goals. That would not be the end of your dreams, of the plans that you had. Because even though you were careful, even though you used protection, even though you chose to be cautious and you chose to be as strong-willed as you could about avoiding this outcome, it still happened. And in a previous version of the world, you could get that dealt with very easily, very safely. At least for most people. But in this version of the United States, where Roe v. Wade has been voted out, if you happen to live in one of many states that are now making it illegal to have abortions or perform abortions, what do you do? What do you do? How do you design your life? How do you create the life you want? How do you choose the path that is in front of you and choose to lean into ambition and choose to be better every day? How do you pursue personal development in a world where an accident, a failed product in the form of condoms or the pills, anything can completely derail your plans? How do you do that? The answer is you don't. In this world, we really can't design our lives. I'm going to avoid speaking from a woman's perspective on this because I'm not a woman and I don't have that perspective. So really all I can do here is talk about this from the perspective of someone who has been very, very, very strict about planning for our future family. Someone who has purposely delayed having kids because I knew that it meant, at least in my case, that all of the dreams, all of the goals, all of the plans that I had in mind would at the very least be significantly harder. Because I knew that if that were to happen, I do not have the finances or the resources or the support that I would need to be able to keep pursuing those dreams and goals. while raising a family. And so I've been very purposeful about delaying, and my partner Rachel has been very purposeful about delaying. But accidents do happen, and we've gotten incredibly lucky when it comes to that. But what happens if you didn't? What happens if the condom just didn't work? Not that it broke, it just didn't work. That happens. What happens if the pill just didn't work? What happens if you were raped? What happens if you just don't want to have a child with this particular person? What do you do? How do you design your life? You don't. And anyone telling you otherwise is full of shit. So yeah, I didn't feel like doing an episode today on designing your life in a world where designing your life is now made significantly harder. And I understand that a significant portion of my listeners are actually in support of this. I understand. Maybe you're religious, maybe you're conservative for other reasons, but you're actually in support of this. And to those people, I would like to say, what do you expect people to do? You're clearly a fan of personal development. You're clearly a fan of people choosing to improve themselves, choosing to be 1% better today than they were yesterday. But in a scenario that is completely out of their control, what do you believe is the solution? Is it just that they have to give up? Or is it that they need to be richer in order to be allowed to have sex? Because that is the only real solution to this. If you're too poor or if you're not in a position to raise a family, you should not have sex. And I don't believe that the people listening to this show who are in favor of Roe v. Wade being pulled believe that. I don't believe that that's the argument you're making. So I want to know, what is the argument you're making? What should people do? Because if you're not going to allow them the freedom to choose what happens with their bodies, how can you possibly say that they have the freedom to choose what happens with their lives? That is absolute bullshit, and you know it. You know it's bullshit. So fucking stop. Fucking cut that shit out. Stop pretending to be for personal development when you are actively against people having the freedoms to choose. You cannot be for life design. You cannot be for people being ambitious. You cannot be for people having the freedom to build their lives and be successful and go for the American dream if you are sitting there being happy about women's rights being stripped away. You cannot be that. And if you try to say that, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. And if your answer is you need to just be richer in order to have sex, you are a fucking fascist. And I don't want you listening to this show. I'm sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. Fuck that. I'm not sorry at all. Don't listen to this show. Don't watch this show. If you disagree with what I'm saying right now, that's fine. You are entitled to your right to disagree. But that also means you don't have to listen. You don't have to be here. Because if you want to tell me that you like personal development and you're really excited about what it can allow you to do for yourself, but you are also in favor of Roe v. Wade being pulled, then you're just selfish. You're just excited about what personal development can do for you with absolutely no regard to anyone else's ability to improve. And that doesn't fly with me. That's not okay. I mentioned a few episodes ago that the only way we actually get ahead is to think about the collective, to think about the community, to think about what happens to everyone else. And the only way we can actually get ahead is to pass laws and to elect people who do the things that is best for the community and the collective, not what is best for me and you. The individual does not matter when we live in a society. If you want to be an individual, go live in the woods. Go be off somewhere and leave us alone. Like, don't vote for your stupid ass people who do dumbass shit that's going to affect everyone else based purely on your views of the world. That's fucking stupid and selfish, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Most of the people still listening to this already agree with me. I recognize that no one who disagrees with me has made it this far into the episode. You've probably turned it off. From the minute I said that abortion should be legal, you probably turned this off. And so I get that you're never going to hear this part. The only reason I'm still saying it is because I'm angry. I'm fucking furious. And I know there are millions of people furious. And this feels like the only thing I can do. Because I vote every damn election. I campaign as much as I can for candidates that are willing to fight for the views that I want. I'm doing the work. And it's not enough for me to just do it. It has to be us. It has to be a collective. It has to be a community. We have to be willing to vote for people who align with the views that we have and fight for them to get into office. We have to be willing to get past the, oh, I don't think he can win. I don't think they can do this bullshit argument and just fucking cast our vote for the person that we want. We have to be willing to do that. Otherwise, we're constantly going to be in this stupid ass cycle where we have one party willing to strip away everyone's goddamn rights and one party who's too fucking weak to do shit about it. We're going to constantly be in that situation unless we decide to act, unless we decide to fucking vote and fucking organize and fucking do something. That's the only way out. Because right now, Roe v. Wade getting struck down by the Supreme Court, it could be passed as an actual law by Congress. If the fucking pussies that are in office right now would do something, they could pass it as an actual law so that the Supreme Court's word would have nothing to do with it. The people in the White House could decide to open abortion clinics on federal land, which would bypass the state's personal laws on abortion. That would give abortion access to millions of people across this country who have already lost it or will lose it soon. But the problem is, instead of doing that, you get a ton of people going on camera and saying how they stand with women and they want us to have rights and blah, 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 blah. You get people talking about it, never actually doing the work. So I'm angry. I'm really fucking angry. And I hope that you're angry too. And I hope that that anger translates into doing something the next time you have a chance. Now, that could mean protesting, that could mean voting, that could mean organizing, that could mean working for a campaign, that could mean running yourself. Why not? But if you're as angry as I am and you're sick and tired of sitting here talking about personal development and doing all the things that really don't fucking matter, like, oh, I'm going to make a list about what my life should be like. Who the fuck cares about your goddamn list? If you don't have the right to pursue that, then you're fucked. So let's stop pretending that this matters without the political action required to give us the freedom to pursue it. Let's stop pretending. I'm sick and fucking tired of it. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I wish you the best. I wish you nothing but love. And I hope that if you're still listening to this and you're someone who is okay with Roe v. Wade being struck down, for whatever your reason is, I hope that you can at least recognize that personal development is not possible if the laws don't allow for it, if the context and environment you live in does not allow for it. I give the example all the time that if you want to eat healthier and you live in a food desert, there's nothing you can do except travel to go do that. Now they're making it so that if you want to design your life, if you want to choose your life and work hard for it, and you happen to get pregnant, or your partner happens to get pregnant, there's nothing you can do about it unless you're rich enough to travel. And they're really trying to get rid of that too. And they're trying to get rid of the pill. And probably at some point they're going to come for condoms. So pretty much we're getting to this point where unless you're rich and can afford to raise kids, you should not have sex. And I don't know about you, but that's fucking depressing. Have a good one. And remember, now more than ever, that all big changes come from the tiny leaps you take every day.